Now, here's a little story. To tell it is a must. About an unsung hero that moves away your dust. Some people make a fortune and others earn a mint. My old man don't earn much. In fact, he's flipping skint. Oh, my old man's a dustman. He wears a dustman's hat. He wears core-blimey trousers and he lives in a council flat. He looks a proper nana in his great big hobnail boots. He's got such a job to pull 'em up that he calls them daisy roots.
Ladies and jelly beans, I come before you to stand behind you, to talk about something I know absolutely nothing about. This Thursday, being Good Friday, there's a men's meeting for women only. Admission is free. You can pay at the door. There are plenty of seats. Sit on the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Friday with Friends. And today I have the wonderful, the amazing Len Cabral sitting here next to me virtually on screen. Actually, he's all the way down in Rhode Island while I'm all the way up here in New London, New Hampshire. So if folks, let me know where you're from and let us know that you're here. I see that we have a few people watching. But do comment in the comments box so that we can see what's happening, and we might bring your comment up. Who knows? So Len, I got to ask you. I got to tell you first. It's absolutely.
Okay.
It's persistently raining right now.
Yes.
And the water is coming into my garage, which is where I'm doing the show right now. So we're pulling the carpets up and throwing them up in the other garage so they can dry out. What's the weather like where you are? Have you got
it's raining. Yeah, it's raining hard.
Yeah.
It started this morning, and it's going to continue for a couple hours, I think. Yeah.
Just a couple of hours. Wow, that's nice.
I hope it's a couple of hours.
We've got it all day. Hey, Janice, it's good to see you. Janice is Janice, she's all the way from Illinois.
Hi, Janice.
And Jane Dorfman from Maryland, she's here with us too. This is great. We've got a nice little group of people showing up. Looks like they're experimenting with YouTube today. Ooh. And Laurie Stevenson from Lunenburg, Massachusetts. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day, right? Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing you both. Oh, that's nice. Oh, and here's Kristen Pedamonte. Yay, Kristen. Have you just finished your dance class there, Kristen? You finished exercising everybody up? Anyway, so electronics and rain, not good. No, it's not. It's absolutely not good. But it's not quite got this far yet. We're waiting for it. If everything suddenly goes dark, that's when we know that we've got to the end of the show, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the end of Simon as well. So, Len, what have you been up to the last 18 months, 24 months?
Well, I've been working in my garden and growing vegetables. I've been, that year from March this past March, I had my 6-year-old granddaughter here with us and my daughter and her husband. So we had a house.
Nice.
It was great to have a 6-year-old running around and wanting to hear stories and making up stories.
Yay! That's a great age. I love 6-year-olds and hanging out with them.
Yeah,
they are, and they don't care about anything. They just want to be there and they want to be present. And
yeah, so that was a real treat. That was a real treat. Plus, I did quite a bit of Zooming.
Yes.
In schools, which is a whole nother bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you finding that stuff is starting to open up where you are?
Yeah, I'm starting to get calls for the fall, some in-school, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. I'm in no hurry to do things this summer, though I do have a few library programs coming up, one in Massachusetts down the Cape, in Orleans, Massachusetts, about that far from P-Town.
Nice.
And then this week I go out to Fisher Island to share stories at a wonderful library there.
And you do that every year, don't you?
Yeah, just about every year in Fisher Island. And I haven't been to Orleans in a few years, but I was there for quite a while. Once I was there, and I bumped into a high school teacher
Uh-huh.
who since retired. She was one Mrs. L, Miss Boston Air. We called her Mrs. L, and her daughter became a teacher. And it was nice to just bump into them down there. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
That's really nice.
yeah.
So yeah, so some people are commenting on the weather and saying, yeah, it's all well, actually, invisible hearths. I'm not sure who that is really. There's some secret individual there. So still in drought here, but in the intermountain west, alas. Yeah, well, here in New Hampshire, yeah, we started off the year in deficit of rain. So it's good that we're getting all this, even though it's a bit rubbish outside. Feels very much like an English summer, to be honest.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Oh dear. So Len, the other night the other night you and I and Heather were sharing stories together with
Yeah,
yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
yes.
And you told a personal narrative story which completely threw me for a loop because you don't normally do that, do you?
No, I normally don't. I've got a few personal stories, but I favor folklore and legends and fairy tales. But I do have a couple of personal stories today. And I just felt like sharing that one because it was a moon story. You
Yeah,
know?
right. I
You know?
hear a bad moon rising.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So why do you like folk and fairy tales so much?
well, there are so many messages in folk tales, um, and those messages are still relevant for today's audiences, uh, or they can be trimmed or turned to capture what we're going through as a society, as growing up, that something that children are dealing with or adults are dealing with.
Yeah.
And, I think stories were told to help people get over the rough spots in their lives, and not just children, but everyone.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and they're still told, hopefully, to help us see a way where there's no way.
Yeah, no, I was I started telling Stone Soup a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was for me it's more a story about. I mean, it's historical to start with, which is I find fascinating.
Yeah.
But then as I've told it, towards the end of last year and also this year, it totally fits in with this whole opening up of the pandemic.
Mm,
Like knocking on people's doors and bringing community back together again. And
yes.
it's something that I mean, I always thought about as bringing community back together again, but
Mm,
for it to fit with the pandemic so strongly, it was like, oh wow, yeah, of course we should be
of
telling this
course.
story.
Yes. That's the one thing about telling stories and then living with them and seeing how they start to fit into the present world that we're living in. You
Yeah,
know, um, and also different taking different points of view of the story, looking at those stories through different character in
right.
the stories. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is interesting when you start looking at stories through the lens of the characters and also the different characters. Not just the main protagonist, the good guy, as it were, or the good gal,
Mhm.
but also to look after to look at the through the lens of the villain.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Little Red Riding Hood. What's the
Yeah.
point of view of the wolf? He's just like hungry. He just needs to
It's
eat.
hungry.
There's nothing, right? Yeah, he's not a bad guy,
No,
right?
not at all. It's like that.
Depends on which lens you look at that through, right?
True. But William Steig, the magic, the talking bone. That's it's a picture book.
Yes, 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 yes.
The talking bone, not in the bone. The wolf is giving the little girl a hard time, and the bone says, "Don't be so mean," and something. And the wolf says, "Hey, don't blame me. I didn't make the world."
That's true. It's true.
Don't.
Yeah. And here's Crow. She says some soup. I think she means stone soup. So many levels. It's true. It's true. Personal, communal, and wise. And Kristen is, love how different aspects of stories can become illuminated through the lens of current time. Yeah. And a message from Carl Goff, good friend of mine in Swansea. Hi all, Len was a highlight for me at Fate Festival at the Edge, 2018. So yeah, you got a fan there, Len.
Oh yeah, that was a great festival too. Yeah.
So how many times have you been over to England?
Let's see. I believe it's 3 times. Maybe twice. I did the Fate Festival twice.
Okay.
And then, I've been to Ireland a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times to Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Do you like it over there?
I loved it. I loved it over there. And, you know, to spend time with the tellers from the UK and from Ireland and other parts of Europe is such a pleasure. And it's such diversity in the telling there. And then that wonderful festival in Belgium.
Which one's that?
Bijan, Mutton Bijan. It's see, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the festival is called.
Okay.
But it's an old festival. It takes place in a castle.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Oh, listen. Well, I've been there a couple of times, but that's where I met a lot of the tellers from the UK there at that festival and other parts of Europe. Yeah.
So who've you seen over there?
Oh, I've seen Peter Chan. You know
Okay.
Peter? And Daniel Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I spent some time with him in Wales. Shauna Lay.
Okay.
She and Peter do a wonderful piece together.
Yeah.
Called Lost in Translation. I'm sure they're doing other things now, but this was back in Amsterdam when I saw them, and they did a piece called Lost in Translation.
Huh.
A beautiful piece about 2 different cultures, you know, the Jewish and Indian culture. And,
Oh wow.
Folklore. It's just the way they tied it together was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like stuff when people come together and do things that, you know, they wouldn't normally do because of that partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fascinating.
It is.
Yeah. So I just looked up the festival while you were saying things.
Oh, okay.
Is it Land Commandragi? I've absolutely butchered that.
No, it's
No. Okay. Bison?
Someone will know it. It's Bayesian. I can't remember it.
That's all right. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about it. But yeah, the idea of telling a story in a castle, that really. So the first. So I got to. So Eric Madden. Did you ever meet him?
Eric Madden.
He's actually Australian, but he lives in Wales and he's been there for a long time.
Oh.
I think he's good friends with Taffy Thomas and probably also Mr. Morden. But he was the first storyteller that I saw as an adult, as it were. And that was in Battle, which is where the Battle of Hastings took place.
Uh-huh.
And that was held in castle ruins. And
Yeah.
that was phenomenal, you know, because you're sitting there and he's actually telling all these historical stories. So he's talking about the Battle of Hastings. He's talking about King Arthur. He's talking about Drake and all these people from, you know, Drake from the Elizabethan times. And we're sitting there in these ruins of this castle. It's just, there's something magical about that, you know, like.
Really, yeah. That's what I liked about that with the festival in Belgium. You're listening to stories that took place in the castle. And you're sitting in the castle listening to it, you know.
Yeah.
In the Festival at the Edge, the same thing. Another teller that I met over there years ago was Jack Lynch.
I've heard of him, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jack Lynch. Wonderful man. Yeah.
So what do you think of English beer then?
Oh, it goes down pretty well.
Not too warm for you?
No. It's funny. I've been watching the European soccer matches.
That's,
And when I was over there, I think it was in maybe a couple of years back. I was in Ireland,
uh-huh.
and I was in Dublin, and the Irish were playing the Danish,
Okay.
and so we were in a pub, of course, and
Uh,
all these Danish guys come in with their arms, and
yeah.
the Irish just love to have a good time, and
Yeah.
they were just busting chops, and the Irish were saying, "We eat Danish for breakfast." But the
That's
Danish
yes,
whooped
right?
them. Oh, but
Danish pastries.
yeah, the Danish whooped up on them that time.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, I was watching. Well, I was reading about the soccer yesterday, and yeah, there's a lot of controversy right now
Yeah,
over
yeah,
that penalty kick. It was
yeah, yeah. Always
uh
something. Always
see,
something.
yeah, if the guys played real football like the girls play real football, then that wouldn't have been an issue, right? There wouldn't have been any there wouldn't have been any fake falling. It would have been like real, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen much of you live, but I've seen a fair amount online, and I just love the way that you tell stories. It's like phenomenal. And this is like before COVID hit. There were a few videos that I've watched of you telling stories, which is, I just love the way that you tell stories. So how did you get your style? Where did that grow from?
I was influenced by so many, um, I think, comedians and actors, and that I grew up seeing on TV. I mean, the movement of, say, Red Skelton,
Hmm.
um, uh, the humor of the movement of Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Uh, um, these comedians really um, influenced me in certain ways. And I always liked movement. I like to dance, and I love to watch people dance. And movement came easy for me because I just always loved it. And I played sports and stuff like that. So it's just a way of utilizing the movement. Now, a little movement goes a long way. Too much is very
Yeah.
distracting.
Yes.
Just enough helps it engage the listener. And but so I was influenced by, I don't know if you know this fellow, Jonathan Winters. He was
Yes.
right now. He was funny. He could pick up a soda bottle and do 20 different things with it and make you fall off your chair. And then you look at Robin Williams. You can tell Robin
Yes.
was influenced by Jonathan Winters, that energy. And
Yeah.
so sometimes when I'm telling stories, I hear Jimmy Durandi's voice come out of my mouth.
That's yeah. That
Or Red Fox come out. So it's all this unconscious, subliminal, I don't know, energy that I took in just listening and watching. And plus the fact, I come from a pretty large family, and there was a lot of banter from my dad to my uncles and cousins, a lot of banter. So there was always laughter and someone uh, doing something very funny, causing that
that's
up.
that's
So
cool. I like that. So you how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have three brothers, no sisters. My
Okay.
mother had four boys. I was the third born, and she thought I was going to be the last one, and she cried when I was a boy. And but 12 years later, she tried again and had another boy.
Oh, she
So
always wanted a girl, I take it.
she always wanted a girl. She kept trying. But so my wife and I, we have two daughters. So I know if I kept going, I'd have all daughters. So we stopped.
Yeah, you didn't want more than two, is that what you're saying? Two's enough. No, no. Two girls is fine. No more, no more. Oh, that's funny. What was I going to say now? I was going to say something then. Lisa Wilcox says hi in her smiley face.
Oh, hey, Lisa.
And, I know what I was going to say. So, yeah, Robin, did you ever see the interview with Robin Williams with Jonathan Winters? And it it was on. I don't know. I can't remember who it was who did it, but it was probably. Oh gosh, can't think of his name now. It was the Late Late Show or something like that. And
Johnny Carson or Dave.
Dave Letterman. It was David Letterman, I think. Yeah. And it was absolutely hysterical. David Letterman was just left, I mean, Robin Williams and Jonathan Winters together. It was just like boom, 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 boom,
Take
boom,
the
boom,
night
boom.
off.
Yeah, right? Totally. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Kristen says it was Johnny Carson.
Oh, Johnny
So,
Carson.
yeah, maybe it was the Johnny Carson show. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was good. It was really good. If you haven't seen that, folks, you should definitely watch it. Yeah, Here's Crow also says that. Johnny Carson. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, because I grew up listening to Robin Williams as a comic, and then I saw, after his Mork and Mindy, and then I saw there was my friend of mine bought the album of his stand-up comedy show, and I listened to that until it wore out. And it was great. But I hear what you're saying when you're telling stories, because I was looking up some of the old English comedians that I used to watch as a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's where I got this from. And it's like taken from this comedian that I used to watch on TV all the time. Not all the time, but
the timing from them, and
yeah.
and another physical comic is Danny DeVito.
Oh, he's amazing.
It just his physicality is just spot on. So,
right.
Those type of things influence me with when it comes to movement and timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think timing is so important.
Pauses. I always say silence is loud. Sometimes
yes.
when you're telling a story, you need to have that pause in there for the audience to catch up or to digest something, or even maybe just to realize, wow, everybody's paying attention.
Yeah. And that's a good feeling when you have that silence and everyone's just like, it's not quite a vacuum, but it's like right on the edge of that. And it's just,
when you do that with high school kids or eighth graders, and they realize how quiet everyone is, they go, whoa, they know they're experiencing something, I love that moment. And the teachers start looking around too, like, what's going on?
I know, they've never seen it before. Unless you've been there before. So we've got a couple of other comments here. Natalie Mendez says that she's in Rochester, Massachusetts. Good to see you. And she also asked a question. What influence did African fairy tales have on your storytelling, if any?
Well, now I grew up hearing Cape Verdean folk tales, which is part of Africa, right up the west coast of Africa. The trickster tales had a big influence on my telling. The Anansi stories, and in Cape Verde we have a character called Nolob, and Nolob, L-O-B-E with a dot over the E, and he's not so much a trickster. He's a noodlehead. He does silly things. He's greedy. He's all these things you don't want your children to be. And they say, oh, don't do that. Nolob did that. Don't be like that. Nolob is like that. And so, but yeah, those influences of the African folk tales and Native American tales or indigenous tales from around the world, they basically talk about sharing. Don't be greedy. To share. To and that's a lot of the Anansi stories are like that, and so basically they're telling people to get along, and don't be mean, don't be bored, don't be a jerk, basically.
They teach you how to be the best person you can be.
And they as all trickster stories do, they show us the boundaries of society. What's considered good behavior and what's considered bad behavior. So we'll know how to navigate.
Yeah. So who's your favorite character? Do you have a favorite character, I should ask first?
Well, I like trickster characters. I like Anansi. I like Coyote. Uh,
Hmm.
I like in East Africa they have the rabbit Songora, who's a trickster, clever. Um, and then uh, let's see and then with the indigenous people here, there's raven and rabbit also, and also
Right.
African American the Brer Rabbit tails. So you can see that connection with the Sangora in East Africa
Uh-huh.
and the trickster rabbit here, Brer Rabbit. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Because I always, there's the story of Anansi when he gathers stories, right?
Yes.
And he has that wooden block that he covers with the sticky sap.
Hmm.
And as soon as I read that story, as soon as I heard that story, it was like, oh my gosh, this is Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby.
Yes. Yeah.
And that just like, when the penny dropped on that one, it was just like, oh my gosh, this
Oh
is so
yeah.
fascinating.
Hmm.
So maybe that was once an Anansi story, and when it got here,
It
it, it,
became.
it morphed into Brer Rabbit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People
Rachel
came.
Hedman, sorry to say that again?
I said people came with their stories.
They did. They
You
did.
know, came with the
That,
stories.
yeah, there's a story that I tell of Anansi that comes from Antigua.
Hmm.
And when I tell that story, I talk about how the people were enslaved and they brought Anansi, AKA their
Yeah.
stories with them.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Anansi was exploring Antigua. So Rachel
Hmm.
Hedman says, yes, much was sharing, storytelling, parenting of society. Yes, it's true. And also here's Crow. She says, she's quoting Andrea Cammons here, a story about a story within a story, a teller and silence. Yeah,
Mm.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I like
That's a
those
nice quote.
stories within the story.
Yeah.
Daniel Morton tells many of those types of stories. Uh, a story that I share of Daniel's is the leaves that hung but never grew. And
Say that again?
the leaves that hung but never grew.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it's an old gypsy tale that Daniel researched, found, worked on it, and it's in one of his books. And it's a wonderful story, but it's a story within a story. And the great thing is when kids are listening to the story, and at the end of the story they go, "Oh," because then they can see where it came all around. And I think
Yeah,
that's for a storyteller. That's like, yeah,
that's gold. Yeah, right. I
yeah,
love that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Anansi too. I like those trickster tales,
yeah.
and I really,
There's so many of them too.
yeah,
Every
right.
culture has them. Every
Yeah,
culture has those tricks, and they're
they
important.
do.
Yeah.
They are important. Yeah. So in England we have Hare, and we have Mr. Fox as well.
Oh, look
So
at that.
Reign of the Fox, or what's his other name? Mr. Todd. Mr. Todd the
Yeah.
Fox.
Something that you asked about the past 18 months, something that I miss, and I'm sure a lot of tellers who travel a lot um, and spend time in their car uh, miss the same thing. It's just that solitude
Mm,
about either driving to a gig, maybe doing warm ups with your voice, maybe
yeah.
about what stories you're going to share, and then getting to the school and doing that, and then getting in your car and driving home and thinking about those stories or working on another story. It's just sitting in quiet, you know, and
Yeah.
that's what I miss a lot because those are the times when you can really kind of reevaluate your performance that you just did and spend some time thinking about it and
Yeah.
how things could have been done differently or what things went well. It gives you that time to talk to yourself. To
Yeah.
see,
No, yeah. I've
yeah.
been doing the first long drive. I had one school or library pretty close by, but then I had a gig about an hour and a half away from home.
Uh-huh.
And at first I was listening to some music, and then I turned the music off, and I'm like contemplating the stories that I'm telling, and I was like, my gosh, I haven't done this,
Yeah.
because because it's like my wife's working at home, my daughter's at home, and it's
Yeah.
like da 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 da. All right, I'm gonna go and do my show now, downstairs, or I'll lock myself away for
Yeah.
like half an hour before, and I'll run through the stories. But
Hmm.
there's always, so when are you going live? What? Not yet, but in like 20 minutes, and it's like, do you want a cup of tea? No, I'm all right. It's,
You want something to eat?
yeah, no, go away, just and the drive home is, especially if it, like that when you have that group when there's that big silence, when they're with you and you're
Yeah.
riding on the back of the dragon, the elusive dragon, and you're driving home, and it's just like having that feeling is just, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like reliving it. Of course, if you had a bad gig and you're driving home and and you're beating yourself up for like 40 minutes, an hour and a half, right? That's not so good, but that doesn't happen very often.
No.
So Rachel Hedman, she wants to know, do you know the whole series of Fox and Bear stories from Scandinavia? Those two characters could be a sitcom. I know a couple of them, but not all of them, obviously, because I don't know if anybody knows all of them.
Yeah. From
That's a lot.
Scandinavia?
Yeah,
No, I'm not.
I think well, actually, they're Norwegian and Swedish, as far as I know. I don't know if they're in Finland, but yeah, there are some really good ones. And I heard there was a really rude story from where was it from? Somalia.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing this gig, and I was telling these stories to these Somalian refugees, and there were a lot of Somalian elders in the room.
Yeah.
And there was a translator there who was translating my story into their language. And I asked if there were any elders in the room who would like to share a story. And this beautiful, very elderly woman, she eventually was like, yeah, all right, I'll tell a story. And she told this story, and talk about differences in culture, right? It was, I can't tell the story because I don't know if there are any kids listening, but it was all about excrement and
Oh, yeah.
and overindulgent eating. But she's telling this story, and it's like, I was like, this is a good story, and I'm actually recording it as well, but I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, all right, I can remember this, and then I'm like, what? They did what? I can't tell that over here. And then what happened? I can't tell that. And like, oh my gosh. It was absolute. It was mind blowing. And this beautiful elder telling this story, and I was just like, that is cultural differences right there.
Right there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of stories like that from Cape Verde that that I can't tell anywhere.
Maybe we should do an adult evening and we'll share those stories.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was at a library in England with Peter Chan, and he told a story about. It blew my mind that the kids were right with him the whole time. Nobody bugged or thought it was off color or anything. About a donkey that farted.
Yeah.
And here, if you were in the library and said, and the donkey farted, the kids, oh. There it was like, oh yeah. I said, well, I couldn't tell that story here.
Yeah, I did a gig. This was a summer camp, and there was this kid that kept farting during the storytelling, and they were loud. They weren't like little silent but violent ones, but they were really loud. And so I brought in, I told a story with a troll, and every time he farted, I was like, and the troll farted. And the kids were loving it, because it's like, oh my gosh, how can you say that? And the kid just like, I thought he never ran out of farts either. He just kept going.
Just kept going. Yeah. This story was about a donkey that something was going to happen once the donkey farted 10 times. So this guy.
Do you want to tell the story?
Oh no! But I will tell you a story. I was telling stories, and all these kids are sitting, and this one boy gets up, and he walks across the stage. No, I'm on the same level, and he walks across stage, and walks around the back over to a teacher
Uh-huh.
and gets the okay to go to the bathroom. So then he goes all the way to the bathroom, and he comes back in and he walks back across in front of me and he sits down. And I said to him, "Everything okay?" He said, "Yeah, I thought I had to go, but I don't."
I got into trouble once because there was this kid. You know, the bathroom was like right over to the side. We could see that, and this kid went into the bathroom. They were gone forever, and I was like, "Did you fall in? Did you get lost?" And apparently, somebody complained about that. They got very upset with me for
Oh,
saying that.
oh
They felt
well.
that I was intimidating them, and I'm like, whatever. And Rachel Hedman said, yes, gross stories always go over well for kids. Anything with gas. It's true.
Oh yeah.
It's true. The thing about, for me, the thing, I don't know about the same for you, I bet it is. But when you know, there's that story of the ship that sails over the land and sea. I think it's a Russian story. And there's a guy in there that farts and turns windmills. And he gets on board, this ship, right? The ship that sails over the land. And when I first read that story, it's like I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I'm an 11-year-old stuck in 11. I am, you know, it's just the way that I am. And I'm reading this story, I got tears rolling down my eyes, and it gets to the end when the king's army is sent against them, and they're trying to escape. And the Megan Wells, the Ship of the World. I think it's got a couple of there's different versions of it, but yes, the Ship of the World is another one. And so the armies start attacking them, and the farter, he bends over and farts them all away. Yeah, and I was just like, oh my gosh, how can I tell that in the school? And I haven't. It's, you know, it's like you have to know the story well enough so that you don't giggle when you tell the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rachel Evans says the Fool of the World and the Flying Ship. Yeah, it's got, yeah, like I said, there's a few different. I know, Kristen, it's true. Phenomenal strength to fart and be able to turn a windmill. Well, imagine getting rid of an army or two. That was very impressive. And he didn't even light it. He just farted. Hey, Len, do you want to share a story with our people today, with our folks today?
Oh, gee.
You can say no. It's all right. We can just chit chat.
You
Not a big deal.
know, yeah. Well, why don't we keep chatting, and then
Okay.
in the meantime, I'll be thinking of a short story that I might be able to share. How's
Sure.
that?
Yeah, let's do that. So Jill actually says, I told a story about the gorilla bushman at the Field Museum. I worked so hard on it, and the part where he throws his poo to get attention away from the orangutans was the best part to them. I don't know that story. Jill, maybe you should be a guest on our show and you can tell that story. Oh, and Motoko. So, Motoko
Oh,
is quite the character.
yes.
Motoko has an incredible story about a young woman who has a serious problem with gas, holding it until caused havoc. Yes. Oh, and Tony Toledo, of course, the king of all farts. The rectal turbulence, barking spiders, windy poops. Yeah, we called them botty coughs in this house.
Oh,
My bottom just coughed. Dear. So, what was I going to say? Oh, my brain is not working today. So, yeah, that gorilla one. Yeah, I don't know that one. Turn a windmill. Yes. Anyway, so I apologize. I am distracted and I'm not doing very well today because years ago I threw my back out and I tweaked my back a couple of days ago. So I'm on painkillers and my brain isn't functioning as well as it should do. So I apologize for that. So Len, do you play any musical instruments?
but I am trying to learn to play the ukulele.
Oh, no way.
Yes, I am trying to play, and I'm learning a couple of chords, but I need to practice more, and I need to be with other people to play so I can learn more. But yeah, that's I've always wanted to play a string instrument, and I thought might as well do it now before it's too late. You never know.
It's never too late. It's not. So, you know, my favorite instrument?
What? Oh, the kazoo.
It's one of the few that I can play. No, I've got my drum. I play my bowron, which is somewhere around. Where is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's down on the floor. But yeah, I love my bowron.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
kazoos are fun.
I have a djembe that I bang around once in a while. But
Yeah, I think I've seen you play that. Yeah.
yeah, but no, but I do like to write little, So like I said, I was practicing my ukulele, and so I like to write little ditties. So here's a little ditty for you,
Okay.
without my uke. Okay. How much are the veggies in the window? The carrots, the squash, and the beets. The broccoli, tomatoes, potatoes. The okra, the lettuce, the leeks. That's first verse.
What? You're not going to give us any more?
It's my, I do a vegetable thing to help promote good eating. So I got these little songs that I do with different shows about
That's cool. I like that. And it's
Yeah.
better than Veggie Tales.
Oh yeah.
So I got a confession, Len.
Yes.
Because I always joke that I grew up and I played the drums. I have a drum kit, and I also have a djembe which I play kind of well, and I got my baron which I play a lot better. But if you look at this kazoo closely, you'll see that there are teeth marks at the small end. Because I always thought you played the kazoo like this, and then I saw a kazoo band, and they're all playing it the other way around. And I'm like, they're playing it the wrong, and I was like, well, maybe I'm playing it the wrong way around. So up until here I am,
Did it
I'm
sound?
in my mid.
When
I
you,
know it
did it
doesn't
sound?
sound. So yeah, I've for the 50 years of my life, I have blown this the wrong way. It's like ridiculous. Ah dear. Which is why there are no teeth mark at the other end, right?
Ah,
So yeah,
yeah.
see,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's why I'm a drummer and not a musician.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You like music though?
I do. I love music. Yeah, and I was really lucky because I grew up in a house that my mum and dad they love jazz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they love jazz. So I grew up. One of my favorite. He was a jazz pianist called Jacques Lussier, French guy. And no, I'm not going to play a bit of kazoo. But yeah, we used to listen. I started off listening to Jacques Lussier, who did a lot of Bach covers and jazzed them up. And my mum was a huge Ella Fitzgerald and Count Basie and Louis Armstrong fan. So I listened to a lot of that. And then my dad was into the Modern Jazz Quartet, the MJQ. So I grew up listening to that, and Chet Baker and Coleman Hawkins.
Oh
and
well.
and my mum was into Elvis Presley, and I got into Elvis Presley and Buddy Holly and all those guys,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I love music. It's passion of mine. So my music's really eclectic because I've got everything from Bach and K.D. Lang doing her country stuff, all the way to the Sex Pistols and the Stranglers
Yeah.
doing
Okay.
that punk rock stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Oh, Megan Wells also played the kazoo the wrong way around
no.
until Beth Horner told her. And yes, Ella Fitzgerald is a goddess. She's freaking awesome. I love Ella
Oh
Fitzgerald.
yeah. Sure.
And
Well,
Cannonball Adderley, I love his stuff too.
growing up in Rhode Island, we had the Newport Jazz Festival
That's right, yeah.
and the Newport Folk Festival. So my buddies and I would hitchhike down to Newport when we were about 15 years old and see Joe Williams, see Ella Fitzgerald, uh, Miles, all the greats, Big Bebop, and then the folk festival was really intriguing because we'd go there and they had these workshops that you could go and sit down in front of people and
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
oh yeah, you pay a couple of bucks, you could go in and there was Pat Sky. Was he from England? Pat Sky.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know the name.
Anyway, he was Pat Sky. I remember sitting on the grass listening to Bob Dylan, Pat Sky, and I forget who the third guy was. It was Mississippi John Hurt, a lot of Delta blues,
Oh, I love that.
Howlin' Wolf, all these great musicians that would come up from from the South. You know, would read about them in the Al Lomax book, and then would see them here in Rhode Island, in Sonny Terry and Donnie McGee.
Wow. That must have been priceless.
Oh, it was, I was there when Dylan went electric.
Oh, yeah. When he went electric, he got a lot. I think it was in the UK. He did a tour in the UK, and he got hate calls and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, same in Newport. And then people booed, and then he came back on and he sang, "It's all over now, baby." And it was. He didn't go back to Newport for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Pete Stevens was there. Yeah, so that was big influences back then to be able to hitchhike down to Newport, which is probably about 40, 50 miles. But we were right there. Yeah.
Could have ridden your bikes down there.
Almost. Yeah.
Tony says that there's a great jazz from Norway hot club. Hang on, what is it? I'll put that up because I'm not going to pronounce that right. Norvège. The Norvège. Sync winging with Jimmy, yeah. Oh, Mike Matheny or Pat Matheny? Do you mean Pat Matheny, Lisa? I haven't heard of Mike Matheny. Oh, and Joseph Sobel's here. Hey, Joseph, good to see you.
All right.
Pat Sky was from Georgia. He just passed away at 80, lived in North Carolina the last 34 years, making and playing Irish bagpipes, an excellent storyteller and so on. I'm going to have to look him up. I love having people like you on the show because I get to meet all these other storytellers that I haven't heard of. I'm writing that down, folks. There we go. Lisa Wilcox, Pat, yes. So Lisa's seen that. Oh dear. So what kind of music do you listen to other than, what do you listen to now? Do you listen to Miley Cyrus and all those guys?
Well, I listen to some old reggae music. I listen to some jazz, some of the new blues musicians who are happening now. There was this group, Chocolate Drops from North Carolina, and they broke up, but all of them are wonderful talents. And it's called. They were the North Carolina Chocolate Drops. Very talented.
Have they been around for a long time?
They've been around the past, I think, maybe 12 years, 10 years, maybe a little longer than that. They broke up a few years back, but they individually they're traveling. Matter of fact, Rahina Gibbons is the vocalist, and she sang at the Newport Folk Festival and the Jazz Festival in the same year.
Oh wow, that must have been an excitement.
What a voice she has. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tony asks if we've talked about Brother Blue and Ruth Hill plaque dedication on Sunday.
Oh, Sunday.
No, we haven't. It's Sunday. So, yes, I think we should mention that. So, for those of you that know who Brother Blue is, very rightly, a plaque is being put up in Boston for Brother Blue and Ruth Hill. And it's going to happen on Sunday. And I think it starts at 4 o'clock? Tony, can you put the details in the chat? Because I'm sure you have them a lot closer to hand than I do. Yeah. Barbara's going to be there, camera in hands. That's excellent. And Joseph, just like, so, and if you don't know who Brother Blue is, Brother Blue is an absolute freaking legend. I've met him a number of times, or had met him a number of times. Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed away a while back, and that
Brother
was
Blue and his wife Ruth. Is that in Central Square? Where is that?
Sure. It's not Central Square because I thought it was going to be Central Square, and it's not. Let me have a quick look at it. Hang on, let me have a quick looky uppy. Tell a story while I'm doing that. Will you, Len?
All right. So this fellow's walking down the street in a village, and he comes across somebody in a hole. And he reaches down the hole. He says, "Give me your hand." And the fellow down the hole goes like this. He says, "No, give me your hands." And again, he goes like this. and try 3 times. Give me your hand 3 times. The guy goes like this. He doesn't know what to do. So he walks into the village and he sees these people sitting around and he says, "Hey, there's a fella down the road there. He's in a hole, and I'm trying to help him out, but he won't give me his hands." And they said, "Oh, that's Simon. That's Simon. He never gives. He only takes."
Oh, steady on.
So he ran back to the hole and said, "Take my hands." The man reached up, took his hands, and he was able to help him. And he pulled him out of the hole. So that's why it's important to know somebody's story if you want to be in a position to help somebody. Take my hands.
That's a very true statement. So I'm looking. I found Katie's. Hang on, let me pop me back on so you're not just on your own there. I found Katie Green's link. I'm going to put this up here.
Mm-hmm.
Bum, bum, bum. So that's a link to the fundraiser. Hang on, where is it? This plaque will be installed in an outdoor street performance space in Harvard Square, Cambridge, where Brother Blue often performed.
Okay.
So yeah, so it is going to be. It's Harvard Square.
Harvard Square,
But
right.
I'm not sure if that's true or not. I thought it was going somewhere else. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I know you will. You always do.
Tony. Yeah.
I love Tony. He's my brother.
Yeah.
All right. So what else we got going on? Len, I tell the story as a Nasruddin Hodges story about the tax collector drowning in the water. Ooh. That's Barbara Alaprantis.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
These Nasruddin stories are wonderful.
They are. They are. And Ruth will be there, of course. Yes, that's true. That's true. Jan Jones. Hey, Jan Jones. She liked that story, by the way, Len. Just to let you know. Brattle Square. That's where it's going. It's Brattle Square.
Oh, Brattle Square. Okay. I know
Yeah. So Sunday, go to Brattle Square, not Harvard Yard. Joseph.
Brattle Square. At 4:00, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 4 p.m. On Brattle Street. Okay, then.
Brattle.
So it's Brother Blue, 4 p.m., Harvard Square, Cambridge, on Brattle Street. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate your help, though. I knew you could pull that up without too much effort. All right. So what else have you got going on in your life? You got your garden. What are you growing in your garden? I want to know. Are you growing vegetables and stuff?
I got greens. I got cabbage. I got lettuce and eggplant, tomatoes, and onions, squash, cucumbers, winter squash.
What do you make out of all of those? That's what I want to know.
Well, let's see. We have summer squash. I love summer squash. I like taking the flowers, mixing them with the little, the flowers from the squash.
Yeah.
And sauteing them with some oil, some olive oil, a little salt, a little flour, sauteing.
Huh.
Mwah. Yes. And
I'm gonna have to.
I love eggplant too. Eggplant's great.
Eggplant is good.
Lettuce, but they go to seed so quick, especially when it gets hot.
The lettuce?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. We tried growing lettuce twice, I think, and it was a lot of effort for not very much reward. They were like 4 leaves, and then it was done. It's like, what?
Greens. I love collard greens and Swiss chard.
Yeah, my wife likes tomatoes, and we used to grow these huge tomato plants. I mean, we had 4 acres of land, and we rented, well, not rented, but 2 acres of it was used by a local farmer, and he would pay our taxes on that.
Right.
But we used to still have, when we had this huge, I mean, it was the size of a living room.
Yeah.
Good sized living room, and we grew all sorts of things there, and it was great. And then you get those big old tomato bugs that, those are...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, those. First time we saw those, it was like, what are these monsters doing on our plants? Ah!
This year is the first year I put plastic down.
Oh, yeah?
And, first of all, to get the ground warm enough. Mm-hmm. And then I left it down and made holes and planted in the holes. And so I'm not weeding as much as I normally weed, which is great.
I know, it's nice, isn't it? We got onto the black top thing, the black plastic thing, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's
a little easier.
Yeah, and it's nothing better than fresh veggies, like pulled
Nothing.
straight out of the garden. We had an asparagus bed that was about 20 feet long and about 10 feet across. And you
Uh,
go out in go out in June and you just cut them an inch below the earth and eat them, and they already tasted like they were cooked. It was
yeah.
so yummy.
Yeah. In
Tony
Cuba,
says, if I had to live off what I grew in my rocky garden, I'd be much skinnier or dead. Well, yeah, luckily, Tony, you live on pie, so that'll never
yeah.
happen.
So, I've got these. My dad passed away a while ago, but he was a really good farmer. And he'd come to Rhode Island to visit me. When I knew he was coming, I'd go out and buy a watermelon.
Oh,
And
yeah?
I'd put the watermelon in the garden next to my. And let
Isn't
him-
that called cheating? Oh, that's funny. Did he ever cotton on? Did he ever realize you were doing that? There must have been some
yes,
point.
he realized it right off.
Oh, okay.
First he was took him up. He said, "What?" And then he realized, "Yeah, you damn fool." Oh yeah.
That's a good. I like that. That's a good prank. I might try it. We have some squash growing, and I'll maybe I'll like push one of the vines to around the back and have a melon there. And
Yeah, there you go. But my father, he had his garden down in Rochester, Massachusetts, and this is how my cousin. I tell you, there's a lot of banter in my family.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my father was really angry about these woodchucks getting in his garden.
Yeah.
They were just really pissing him off. And so one day, one of my older cousins was driving, and there was a woodchuck that had got hit my car. He wasn't squashed, but he was dead. So my cousin picks up this woodchuck, walks behind my father's house, and places the woodchuck on the wood pile down by the garden. Then he goes to the front of the house, goes in the house, and my father and he are sitting on the porch talking, and he looks over my father's shoulder and goes, "Hey, Mahoney, look, there's a woodchuck. Look, there's a..." My father runs in the house, gets his 22, and boom! My cousin says, "You got him! You got him, Mom! You got him!" Oh, my father's walking out all puffed up. Oh, it's on a woodchuck. Until my other cousins told him, "Oh, no, that was down the road."
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So, folks, do you have any questions for either of us? In particular, Mr. Len, because, I'm here every week, or mostly. Len is not here every week. If you've got any questions for Len, send them right now, because we're going to be wrapping up this show pretty quickly. What else has been going on?
Let's see. There was a funny something that happened that there's always funny things happening,
There is. What I should do, actually, while you're thinking of that, I should pop up that if you want to find out more about Len, his website is it's very tricky, lencabral.com.
Yes.
So go visit his website. Can you buy stuff off your website? Do you have a little shop there?
Yeah. You can buy my picture book of How the Rabbit Lost His Tail, or you can buy my CDs.
Excellent. So keep Len well fed
Yes.
and spend all your money on his website.
So what time was? Oh, you get the question?
No, it's all right. You go ahead.
All right. So this is the thing about storytelling. One time I was telling, this is a number of years ago, I was telling stories at a summer program here in Providence at a library. And it was taking place at a library or a school. That's a school. And the following year, they hired me again, but I was at a different school in another neighborhood. And so I get there, I'm telling stories, and this girl who's probably about 10 or 11 years old, she says, "Oh, I remember you. You were here last year." And I said, "No, I wasn't here in this program. Last year I was at the school over on the south side." She goes, "No, you were here last year." I said, no, it wasn't me. "No, you were here last year." And so I go, "Okay, what story did I tell?" So I'm going to get this little girl, right? "What story did I tell?" She says, "You told the story about such and such, such and such. Now, that's a story that a friend of mine, Mark Levitt, is a storyteller here in Rhode Island, story that he tells. I know that he was in this program, and it was his story, and he was there. And I said, oh, you did hear a storyteller last year, but it wasn't me, because I know the storyteller. No, it was you, but last year you were white. I said, okay, we'll just leave it at that. She listened to the storyteller did not get in the way of the story. Right?
That's really cool.
He did not get away. He just told the story. So I was telling the story. It must have been me. But last year I was white, she said. So I said, oh, let it go with that.
Yeah, I was at Sharing the Fire, and people kept coming up to me and saying, "Are you Kevin Brooks?" And I'm like, "No." And I didn't know Kevin at that time, right? And he's taller than me, he's broader than me, he's a lot blacker than me, and he was getting in an elevator, and I stepped in the elevator with him, and I saw his name tag, and I was like, "Oh, hey, brother," and he kind of gave me a funny look, and then he looked at my name tag and said, "Oh, people have been asking me if I'm Simon Brooks," and I'm like, "That's funny because people have been asking me if I'm Kevin Brooks." And so that was the first time I met Kevin. It was absolutely brilliant. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So, your niece April says hello. I'm assuming she's your niece. She's not faking it.
No, she's my niece.
All right. And Tony has a question for you.
Okay.
Has the pandemic changed how you think about storytelling?
Yes, it has. Because telling stories through Zoom, I'm stationary. I'm not, in the room with somebody doing the closeness except through the camera.
Mm-hmm.
But it also slows the story down. And there are certain stories that I haven't told because of the physicality of the story, of what I need to do to tell that story. So there are stories and also there are stories where I use a lot of repetition or participation, which doesn't flow with through Zoom. So there are stories that I haven't told, and stories that I've tried to tell that I thought I couldn't tell because of the lack of movement or repetition. And so I discovered that, I could tell that story, but I tell it differently.
Yeah.
And also in place of being physical, there's more facial expressions used in a story when you're telling a story in this format, or your voice, using your voice differently. But I think it's slowing the story down.
Yeah, I think that's really important. That was one of the things that Laura Sims, when she and I started doing the Hans Christian Andersen Summer Festival last year, one of the things that we discovered is that you really do have to slow the delivery down online, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, because so many people weren't used to listening to story online, and I think the internet was a lot more wobblier at the beginning of the pandemic because everyone got online. And so the connection wasn't as good, so you needed to slow down just so that the connection could keep up with you, I think. Lisa Wilcox wants to know if you're coming to the Asheville area anytime soon, or if you ever do come to the Asheville area.
I would love to come to the Asheville area because I have some really good friends down there, wonderful storytellers, and I've been there before, and it's beautiful, but I don't have any plans to go there right now. Some good friends of mine live up in your neck of the woods there in New Hampshire, in Rochester, New Hampshire.
Yeah, you should. Well, anytime you're in New Hampshire, you just give me the words and we'll get together for a coffee.
Yeah. These friends of mine that live over there, they're going to be moving to Asheville.
Oh, they are?
They've lived in, do you know where Barrington is? Barrington? Yeah. They live there. Wonderful people. She's a writer. Oh, she was a poet laureate.
What's her name?
What's her name? I'm so careful with names. Marie Harris. Marie Harris in Charter Weeks. Charter is a wonderful photographer. And
oh, really?
Marie was a poet laureate, I think, back in probably the 80s, 90s.
Okay.
Um, wonderful writer, and she's written a number of. Matter of fact, she did one of those books, alphabet book for New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah.
She did
So
one of
he
those.
made one of those?
She did one of those.
Oh, she did one. That's cool.
Yeah, Marie Harris is her name. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Marie Harris. Oh, I'm going to look her up. I'm going to look her up and
Yes,
see if I can
look her
find
up.
her.
She's wonderful.
I will.
But,
I will.
I guess I brought that up because they'll be moving to Asheville. And yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I keep thinking about Asheville. People, I have a couple of friends out there now, and they post on Instagram, and especially, in February, March, and they're sending photographs of flowers, and I look out the window and I just see snow, and it's like, maybe Asheville's a good place to go to.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Len, thank you so much indeed for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here and just sitting down here and having a chit chat and a chin wag with me. It was absolutely brilliant.
I'm glad we did this. It was wonderful. It's always nice talking with you and
Likewise.
the program. I love to hear other tellers having conversations with you, and so it's a pleasure.
I'm a lucky dude, I think, being able to do this and have people say yes. So I'm honored that you came here, Len. It's absolutely brilliant. Folks, thanks again for spending an hour and some minutes with us. I really appreciate you being out there as well. Remember to spend all your money on Len's website. Keep him and his wife well fed and his grandchildren sorted out. And I will see you next week. And next week we have, let me just double check because I want to make sure that I got this right. Next week we've got Tony Cranston, I believe, will be joining us. And so the 23rd of July is the day before my birthday. And I have convinced my best friend from the UK, from high school friends, we're actually going to, hang on, let me just double check with Tony, see if Tony Cranston is next weekend. And then the following weekend, my best friend Billy is actually, he and I are going to be sitting down and shooting the breeze. So I'm kind of excited about that because he and I don't get to speak very often. Have a great weekend, folks. I hope the hurricane doesn't affect you too badly. I'm glad that we're getting the rain because the earth needs as much of it as possible right now. We don't have the snow that we used to. Take care, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Len. I really appreciate you. It's been wonderful
chatting. Take care of you back.